the rebooting, the Hollywood reboot of Godzilla, if you may, to really reintroduce the monsterverse. Monarch, the company in charge of keeping track of all the Titans and or the MUTOS, as we'll be introduced to right now, which MUTO stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism, which they kind of lump Godzilla into, since they don't know what he, she, it's about, or that it even exists. But they also got to use that term for the bad guys, and there's two of them, bad guys, female and male, versus Godzilla in this whole film. Again, for 2014, hit theaters. Just to throw back to those times, 10 years ago to be exact, when I had a full head of hair and I was, the least of my worries were if Godzilla 2014 was going to be anything like Godzilla from, what was it, 1998, I believe, with Matthew Broderick, which is shout out to Matthew Broderick, but absolute dumpster bin fire to that whole movie in itself because it was absolutely terrible. Not one of the worst things ever made, but definitely too confusing, too out there to even make sense in the monster slash Godzilla verse. Also, if you remember, the lead song from that was "Come With Me," which I don't remember if it was a remake or something to do with Nine Inch Nails. I think Trent Reznor might have had something to do with it, but we don't talk about that song no more because Diddy was the one leading the vocals on that one, remaking a song that didn't need to be remade, which is what he was doing for the longest time. But yeah, we're not talking about that guy. We're not gonna big that up. I'm just saying that was associated as the lead single for Godzilla in 1998. But no, fuck that shit. We're moving on to 2014 now. Reintroduction of Godzilla to Hollywood, to the Americans at least. Because here's a fun fact before we start things off. So according to Toho, the studios that put out the first Godzilla movies back in the 50s and 60s, I think it was the 50s, yeah, the 50s and onwards. In total, in case you're curious, I know there's been a bunch of Godzilla movies. There's been too many to keep track of and or tally of, but I did the research beforehand, and I'm proud to announce that we do have an official number. Godzilla Minus Zero, the Oscar winning one, is officially counted as the 30th Godzilla film in Toho's eyes. In total, as far as every Godzilla movie ever made, because they don't include anything that they didn't make themselves or basically was Japanese like that, so it's down to 30. They don't include the 5 Hollywood films that featured Godzilla that we made: 1998, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla King of the Monsters, what was the other one? Godzilla versus Kong, Godzilla and Kong, and then there's a fifth one. I can't remember right now what the other one was. Was there another? I think there was. There was another one at some point, I think. I forget, but there was 5 Hollywood movies, and there's 3 animated movies I never even heard of in the Godzilla MonsterVerse. I guess based loosely off or kind of like in betweeners for like the rest of the Hollywood films that came out since Godzilla 2014, which is crazy to think. There's been so much Godzilla going on that he, she, it had to be reintroduced to us in 2014 for it to make sense, and it's nowhere near the levels of like the reboots of, let's say, Planet of the Apes, which have been really great. The fucking 3 modernized ones we got from 2011 onwards. For now, at least, with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Shout out to that movie. We just did a review for that one. Of the 8 verse, at least out of the 4, that's the weakest entry out of an otherwise pretty much flawless trilogy before the introduction of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But back to Kong, not back to Kong. Enough ape talk. Ape together strong. We're not on that shit, Caesar. But rest in peace, Caesar. He was a good ape, monkey. I don't want to sound racist like that, but I'm just saying he was a great character, real emotional compromise with Caesar the whole time. But back to Godzilla, which you also get actual compromise and feelings and sentiments towards throughout this film. Well, I think first off, we gotta commend a great job acting wise to both a Mr. Ken Watanabe, who was featured on this epic little mini series, 1 season only, meaning called Shogun on, what was that, FX? Yeah, FX. which I watched through Hulu. So yeah, that's the way I watched it, and most of the world watched it. And overwhelming majority popular opinion is that that was an excellent little miniseries that so popular and so beloved now that actually I was reading that people started demanding that there be a season two because as soon as season one wrapped up, 10 episodes, they was like, oh, when is season two gonna, get production started on it? When's it gonna come out? They said no, that's a miniseries. It's a one off because we did that already back in the 70s. It was a one off then. It's a one off now too. But due to popular demand, they're bringing Shogun back. Who knows when? I hope not soon. Let them cook. Let it cook. And let it come out when the time's apropos. But I guess officially we'll get a trailer at some point to confirm that season two of Shogun is going to come back. And hopefully it's at least, you know, somewhat good in comparison to season one or what was the first installment of what was supposed to only be a miniseries. But because people liked it so much again, we got a season two apparently coming up of Shogun at some point. But yeah, that's Shogun talk. Shout out to Ken Watanabe again. Don't ask me the name of the character on the show because I couldn't remember names on that show at all. I had to keep track by watching and listening to. Well, I don't speak Japanese, of course, so I had to read the captions 100% of the time because we just brought up the fact that Godzilla, including the most recent release, Godzilla Kong, The New Empire, is the 38th film in this entire franchise of Godzilla now meeting with King Kong. They're officially, bros for life and broskies and shit. You would think that, I don't know, Hollywood can't get it right, or why even bother rebooting? Let's just let Japan do their thing with it every so often, every couple of years, and we'll just like bring it over. We'll dub into English and shit. But I'm glad they took a chance on reintroducing, rebooting Godzilla for us, the overseas viewers. And even though they don't count Godzilla, Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla and Kong, Godzilla King of the Monsters as like official entries into the Godzilla monsterverse, I think this was a very good start. Godzilla 2014 specifically, because again, like I mentioned with Ken Watanabe, you also have shoutouts to Bryan Cranston playing a very good but short, brief role in the movie, opening things up. It's back when in Japan, he's a scientist. He's trying to figure out, what's the reason for all this fucking movement and fucking destruction going on. They're like, oh, it's earthquakes. Oh, it's landslides. Like, no, there's got to be more to this than just that shit. Because if we fucked up Japan twice back in the 40s with the A-bombs and shit, those side effects still can't be lingering this far out removed from when that happened back when. So he's like curious, he's pondering. He's like, if you know anyone that's a fucking, that's heavy into the, what do you call it, conspiracy theories, he's one of those, like just obsessed like a junkie, just maniacal about it. Something's going on here, this is off, this doesn't seem right. And he's right. He's proven right throughout the whole fucking thing because 15 minutes in, it's him and his wife living in this little fucking like slot of land in Japan, assigned to the scientists and the researchers and the archaeologists and all the motherfuckers. She's stuck in the reactor when it goes off, thanks to a disturbance in the land that causes the whole reactor site to fucking like practically implode and get ready to, blow up. He can't save her. She's stuck in there. Of course, she's dead because of it. As a result, 15 minutes in, and already we got like main character, big time character death. And then we got to fast forward, of course, from that time she died to 15 years later when he's got a kid. The kid grows up. He goes off to live his own life because he's tired of his dad, Bryan Cranston, being obsessed with, something went on that day. They're trying to cover something. They're lying to me. My wife died for no good reason, and now on top of that, the only reason they know of that she died because of, they're trying to cover that and make me sound and look like I'm crazy. So he stays behind in Japan the whole time, trying to research and research and research. Meanwhile, his son, named what was it, Ford? Yeah, Ford Brody Ford? What was it? It was a weird ass name. Ford. Ford Brody. Brody's the last name, Ford's the first name. Ford like the car. Uh Not to say shout outs to Ford, but whoever came up with the name really put all their effort into the script and or the Visual effects are making Godzilla look as great as she it does throughout the movie. They didn't even give a second thought to name the fucking characters to make it make any sort of sense whatsoever. But Ford is the kid of Bryan Cranston, who runs off, goes to the military, becomes a bomb diffuser expert, whatever the fuck you call it. No disrespect to the military, of course, but I forget the exact titling and or ranking he got. But it's a pretty good one. I'm assuming he makes a good living. He's got a cute ass wife with a young ass 2014 Elizabeth Olsen. So she's still bright eyed and big tittied as she's always been. And that's always a great pleasure to see on screen. Elizabeth Olsen, shout out to her again. Uh, he's married with her. They got a kid. He's like five-ish or something like that. And dad is stuck out there in Japan, still trying to figure out what happened all them years ago with mom. Ford's mom in this case. He's always getting arrested. He's getting bailed out because, he's trespassing on the where they previously lived all together as a family when the wife was still alive. He keeps going back to try to find out and dig up shit. They keep arresting his ass to the point where he's held in captivity. And what's his name? Ford, he gets called by the Japanese consulate to be like, okay, get your white cracker ass over here and get your fucking pale ass dad out of here before he gets radioactive poisoning and he's gonna blame us of all people. Meanwhile, the white man's the one that did us dirty back in the 40s. If you remember your history, motherfucker. But he has to go all the way out to Japan. He's got to leave his pretty ass wife behind, his kid behind for the sake of his dad. He's got to tell his dad, let it go, Elsa, please. It's been too long. It's been so far removed. Mom's dead. You can't bring it back, obviously, you fucking idiot. But he's still convinced. Dad, Bryan Cranston, is still convinced something's up, something's going on here. I'm not being told all the fucking info I need to know about. They keep going back. He convinces his son to go back with him to the site where they get arrested and or detained by fucking Monarch. This time the people in charge of finding out what the fuck's going on, they know the real deal that's going on this whole time. And they bring him and introduce him to Ken Watanabe, the head scientist of, the guys, the people, not to be sexist like that, excuse me. All inclusive here. The people studying what the fuck is going on in that area, what's been going on ever since that first thing happened, what's going on still now, because there's, tremors, there's vibrations, there's disruption in the land and shit. But they know what's going on. And they know the whole time, and while he's getting interrogated, Bryan Cranston's like, you motherfuckers are lying about my wife. You motherfuckers are lying about everything going on around here. You know what's going on around here. You just won't tell me because you're fucking greedy like that. You want to keep it all to yourselves and shit. Meanwhile, my wife's dead. And it's been over fucking 15 years. My son still can't forgive me. I got a whole ass grandson, doesn't even know who I am because I'm obsessed out here, obsessed on my wife. Because she probably had good pussy like that. I don't know, but still, he's maniacal about it. And it's a really good acting job by Bryan Cranston. Which then there's a disruption because they uncovered what do you call it? Like a nest or like a shell where one of the MUTOS, again the what is it called again? Massive unidentified terrestrial organism, a MUTO, is stuck in the whole time. It's been sucking off the energy around the electricity, I mean to say. And they, white people got to tamper with shit. They're poking at it. They're prodding at it. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to see what's inside it. Can they crack it open? Can they peek a look or whatever? At some point, something happens where it gets enough energy in it to fucking just break out its fucking, like, hive shell, whatever. It's running amok. It's going crazy, just stomping on through and busting motherfuckers in the, like, grapes. So much weight and pressure on top of them. And destroying this and destroying that. And at some point, Bryan Cranston, the one guy that knows what's up and what's really going on around here, he gets knocked out. He's left for dead. No, they take him into a helicopter and try to airlift him over to a hospital, but he dies. Telling his son, who they're finally rekindling after all that time together because they got arrested together of all things. He's like, save your family, do whatever it takes. R.I.P. And that's it for Bryan Cranston. And it sucks because he's the strongest acting performance, besides Ken Watanabe, in his very limited English, in the whole film. Because you got the lead kid, I want to say his name, Aaron Taylor Johnson or something like that. I'll be honest, seems like a good kid. I remember him, or he stood out to me in Kick-Ass 1. When he was scrawny, he played the role well and everything too. And then when he had this whole glow up for Kick-Ass 2. where he put on a lot of size. He looks like he might have grown like 6 inches or something like that. Cut his hair, good looking kid for the role at least, but kept that look up for everything else he's done since. And I think supposedly, ain't he the one that landed the role for Bond in the next reboot, reimagining of Bond and that whole series? Which shout out to Idris Elba. I thought he had been selected, or was he the front runner for being Bond, the next Bond, I mean to say. But I guess they took that away from him and gave it to this kid, which looks wise, I'd say maybe he could pull it off, but he don't have the riz, the charm, the acting skills, the allure of a Bond per se. Because yes, all the other Bonds before him, even Daniel, what's his name, Craig? I think his name is it Daniel Craig? All have been good-looking men who had that sort of charisma, that allure to reel you in as Bond. But I don't see it in this kid, and the proof positive of that is his acting throughout this movie, which is not good. He's very, stiff-faced, like half the time he looks like he's just fresh off of smelling his girlfriend's first fart after she moved in with him, like the whole time, like stunned and astonished at all these fucking things going on. Which, of course, there's a couple of monsters running loose in the city, destroying shit and sucking up electricity and, tearing down buildings, and you're stuck in the middle as an army guy, but I get it. But he's just not very convincing, and obviously a mostly green screen, fake ass movie, but still, it's just something's missing with him. So if he really is Bond or he ended up getting Bond, I'll give him a chance before I even write him off like that. Because, most recent proof was fucking, no one believed in what's his face. God, what's his name? The kid that just did the Batman, Robert Pattinson, right? No one believed in him. No one believed in, God, there was another one. Oh, Ben Affleck is Batman. And to me, honestly, he's still the best Batman. Anytime you ask me, even if you weren't asking me right now, I'd still say he's the best Batman we've ever gotten. And no disrespect to Michael Keaton and, what's his face, Christian Bale, and of course the voice of Kevin Conroy for the animated series and all the video games too. Personal favorite to me is Ben Affleck. I don't know. At least he's the guy physically that could have been Batman the whole time, and also looks-wise and coolness-wise. And please don't forget that warehouse fight scene in Batman vs. Superman, which is just proof enough to be like Batflick all day, every day for me. That's for me, though. But now back to the movie, right? So now we got a term for these fucking things. Well, the one thing that woke up from that fucking site that they uncovered, the massive unidentified terrestrial organism, it's a MUTO. That's the term officially. So this big fucking MUTO that, just imagine like a king-sized spider crab, I think it's called, like those big ass crabs, Alaskan snow crabs or something like that. Imagine one of those just times 1,000, just blown up like that, right? Running through all the cities, going from point to point, peak to peak. For what? For the sake of, initially we think, just for the sake of it being big and bad, and it just wants to feed on something. But no, it wants to fuck. And the whole time it's making noises, and it awakens, and it gathers nuclear energy and shit, and radiation and such. It's doing it so he can present it as a gift, because it's a boy. He's presenting it as a gift to the female one, which is even bigger than he is, somehow, some way. And so she can fucking feed her eggs, her little hive that she's brewing underneath her belly, I'm assuming her big Muto Titan pussy, and deposit it somewhere into the earth so that she can create a whole hive nest of more Mutos to be fucking fully developed and grow and go crazy around the world and take over the world with. So even the Mutos, the male Mutos, all they're doing is thinking with their dicks. They're radioactive, hooked, addicted dicks to attract the females so they can, and mind you, obviously this is PG-13. They're not going to show the big, gigantic things in the air fucking like that, because imagine the size of that thing's dick. No thank you. They don't show it, so we can only assume they fucked at some point, because then the big female one that awakens after the male makes enough calls and, like, gets her out of a nap and shit, awakens and she's got a whole fucking, like, sack dangling underneath her. And I thought at first that was the male that had his balls showing, But then I thought, this is PG-13. They're making a lot of emphasis on a male showing off its testes, right? But no, it was a female carrying the nest underneath her, ready to deposit at the right given time and moment so that she can create the hive in the nest for the future installments of the MUTOs that take over the world and shit. I guarantee you with this fucking terminology MUTO, when they broadcast it on the news and they let the world know there's a bunch of fucking MUTOs taking over the world, if only we had something just as big or bigger to take it on, the both of them, I bet you every Mexican that was watching it in English or in Espanol was like, puto? That's what they call it? Pinche puto. Está inmenso el puto. I don't know, they might have confused it for puto. They might as well be putos, both of them, male and female, because he can fly, the male one, but he's smaller and he's got to do all the gathering. He's the one gathering all the radiation and the nuclear weapons and shit. Meanwhile, she's gigantic, big, lumbering, stumbling, just hungry all the time, just like every woman that's pregnant. But you didn't hear from me first. Of course, just like every woman, just hungry and miserable and aggy, the whole time like she is. And he's got to cater to her the whole fucking time. That's the life of a Muto, I guess. That's what you got to deal with, right? Now, when we get more familiarized with Monarch and Ken Watanabe, he breaks down, and I love this twist that the movie proposes to us, that the both atomic bombs we dropped on Japan weren't so much for Japan, but to apparently stop the growth and or further development of Godzilla. Or I believe we did it, and that triggered and awakened Godzilla to the point where it just blew up to immense sizes and proportions beyond the wildest dreams and beliefs, right? So I love that little spin. Obviously, it's not real. Duh, I get that. But it's cool to reimagine history for the sake of a movie. The A-bombs caused this, like, I don't know, ocean iguana to react in a way genetically that it wasn't supposed to, and now we got a fucking 1,000,000,000 times size, iguana redubbed Godzilla that's gonna protect us. Hopefully, Ken Watanabe is the only one with hope that he's actually on our side. It's actually on our side, and he's proven right too, because he does turn out to be the saving grace of the whole movie. The thing is called Godzilla. You would think, of course, Godzilla would be the one saving our asses from impending doom and destruction, right? But it just so happens to be because he's the one that's not the other two Muto Putos. So while Ken Watanabe is busy being a stand for Godzilla and trying to convince, the general and everybody else that he's on our side, most likely, hopefully, fingers crossed, the male Muto is taking over Hawaii, sucked up all the electricity from there. They're going on a world tour. Well, not a world tour. No, wait, actually, because the shit went off in the Philippines. They brought it over to Japan. That's where the A-bombs went off. And then, yeah, I guess, okay, yeah, so, sort of like a half-world tour. And meanwhile, off in Japan, while they're sucking off the electricity and killing motherfuckers, well, almost killing motherfuckers. They're in the dark, so they can't really see as big as they are. So how are they going to fucking tell when, people are the size of ants compared to them? Godzilla comes out the ocean. He's been awakened. He's been triggered enough to come through like a Karen and force his way into the situation. He's flooding Hawaii and shit, which is nothing but a chain of islands to begin with. But still, he's so big and massive and fast that he's overflowing the island like a clogged toilet. People are getting washed away and washed ashore and shit. But for the sake of Godzilla being there to save humanity's ass, and finally we get the cut to Godzilla finally on screen, big time. It's fucking beautiful. It's great the way they fucking pan up to him. And I like too the whole time the movie, they're not directly showing you Godzilla. They're showing you bits and pieces, hintings, foreshadowing of Godzilla before we get the initial wah thing that Godzilla does to, make its presence known wherever it arrives, of course. Just, like you're looking at the fucking cover art here. Big wide open mouth and I'm stuck in right now. Just like that. That's how Godzilla says hello, basically. He's overexcited is all. That's all it is. We can't really blame him for that. He is saving the world, so we do owe him that favor, right? And it's really cool because, again, once they pan up to show the body of Godzilla and the full imagery and the alluding to the fight between him and the first Muto there, they cut back to the news feed, actually, of Ford's young son watching on TV Mom is like unaware completely until she looks at the TV after telling him like 5 times to turn that shit off. Your brain's gonna rot. And then she realizes, oh shit, because he says, oh look, mommy, dinosaurs. And then you got these two motherfuckers on screen, bashing each other and shit. And that's all we get from Hawaii. Because from Hawaii, again, like I said, they go to Vegas. The fucking female MUTO's already pregnant. Got the big dangling fucking nest full of eggs underneath her fucking belly. Walking around all loud and proud. Munching on trains. They're using fucking trains to transport fucking nuclear warheads. But they catch them and they just start eating the trains like a never-ending chain of metal Snickers or something like that. It's just like candy bars, and they're just enjoying munching on the shit. It's crazy to watch. And the part that bothers me, of course, out of all this, even though I'm not from the West Coast at all, I've been there once, and that was enough for me to fall in love with the Golden Gate Bridge, which is always getting destroyed in these fucking movies. And it's not even just Kong did it or Godzilla did it. They did it in the Planet of the Apes too, in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is another great movie, by the way, of course. But still, why they had to lay waste and do all that damage to the Golden Gate Bridge like they did in that one, but even worse in this one, because Godzilla's walking through it. He doesn't know how to fucking swim underneath it or jump over it. No, he's got to walk right through it, all because the army was on his ass, triggering it by shooting at it and taking it as a threat. Well, I get it. It's a big, gigantic lizard that popped up out of the ocean and shit, but can't we give it a chance to at least speak to us? It might just be a giant iguana, an overgrown iguana that got exposed to radiation like we did to it back in the 40s when we dropped the A-bombs, and it just might be understood. It's a big, gigantic fucking lizard. Why not fucking have it on our side if we can too? But no, the army likes to jump the gun. And at that expense, we lose a majority, a good chunk of the Golden Gate Bridge. How many fucking times, how many fucking movies are we gonna witness the Golden Gate Bridge? One of the best bridges ever built, because I walked over it and it was beautiful. I walked over the ocean, for God's sakes. I walked over the fucking Pacific Ocean thanks to the goddamn Golden Gate Bridge. It was that memorable, that fantastic. It just hurts me when I see that. But the whole point is, again, of course, they go through the Golden Gate Bridge. They figure out they're going to send some soldiers, including Ford, up in the sky to swoop in on the city that's been taken over by the female MUTO, where she's laid her eggs, made a hole in the ground, and made a whole nest for her fucking babies to grow and shit, right? The drop part, when he falls out of the plane, well, he skydives. I mean, he falls out the plane like that as part of the mission, is really cool because they cut from him actually falling, the view of, to his point of view, like through his visor and shit as he drops into the fucking city, he deploys a parachute. That's some really good storytelling right there. That's some really good movie fucking magic right there that was done. Not saying it looks super real, but it's a good feeling, convincing enough look to it when they make that happen. And the whole crew, the whole bunch of soldiers that fall in that part of the city, they're treated like first front row seats to the whole battle going on. Because then there's the female laid the eggs, there's the male still trying to please the female and watching over the eggs. I guess it was his turn to babysit the MUTOs, I mean. And then Godzilla coming out the shadows to confront both of them. But it's a double team. It's a 2-on-1 handicap match. Both the male and female MUTO. It's an intergender 2-on-1 match. Male and female MUTO versus Godzilla. It's unfair. They're beating the shit out of it. They're there front row seats with popcorn in hand, just watching the whole time. They don't know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, if any of them are the good guys at all, if they're just fucking dead meat once they're done beating each other up like that. But they got a mission. They got to carry the fucking the warhead through the hive to blow it up, so there's no chance of more of them fucking being born or bred like that to take over the world. 2 of them is fucking more than enough already, in a gigantic iguana taking out, city after city for the sake of chasing after these 2. Listen, the world can only afford so much reconstruction, time after time after time, with Kong, Godzilla, Kong and Godzilla, Kong v Godzilla, and then the old fucking bunch of other ones that make trouble, and the Mothras. Well, no, Mothra's a good one. The Ghidorah and the Mecha Godzilla. The world can only afford so much destruction, I would assume. But then again, our military, our economy, who knows these days? Shh, you didn't hear that from me. And don't tell Uncle Sam I was talking shit either like that. I'm not trying to count his money like that either. So while the 2-on-1 happens, the 2 MUTOs versus Godzilla, Ford is actually able to make his way down to the nest anyway, and He kicks open the lid off a fucking a gas tanker, lights the shit on fire. The nest is on fire. Boom, explosion. The mom's distracted enough to stop beating up on Godzilla to go over to her fucking babies and mourn the losses, like, my babies, and shit. All my children, all my babies, kind of thing. That kind of energy, right? But thank God she's distracted enough because then finally Godzilla's able to fucking take the male out somewhat, a little bit temporarily and shit. And while she's distracted mourning the loss of her hive, her nest, her children and shit, we finally get what I've been looking forward to since the trailer, since it debuted back in 2014 and shit, is Godzilla with the atomic breath. Because you see the tip of the tail to the top of his head light up, glow up that fucking intense ass blue, and he's blasting away at Mama Muto, just fucking throwing up all this radiation her way, and he's trying to burrow a hole through her clean and shit, but the other one interferes, of course. And he's taking out this one. He's trying to take out the other one too. It's too much. He's overwhelmed. Of course, he's stuck. Finally, at least finally, one on one with the male one. So at some point, the male's a high flyer versus a grappler like Godzilla is. So Godzilla has to think ahead of time as he's jumping off the top ropes or the top of a skyscraper and about to swoop in on him again since it's cheating and it can fly. He times it right. Godzilla whacks him in the head with his tail into a fucking building and knocks his ass out. But it's a tall ass building. We don't see it. It crumbles on top of Godzilla, and Godzilla's out for the count. He's tired. Oh shit, he collapses. At the same time, Ford runs up on him with a collapsed Godzilla, looking at him. They share an intense, brief moment of a bro to bro, heart to heart kind of thing. Like, come on, dog. You got this, man. I believe in you, son. Let's pull through and make this happen for planet Earth for the sake of the fucking people and humanity and lizards as big as you are, hopefully. If there's more of you. Hopefully not. But if there's more of you, then all of you can survive. Or something like that. A little motivational fucking pep talk speech through eye contact only. Ford is able to finally get to the missile they got that's gonna blow off the shore of fucking California to bring them over there. I think they're gonna blow up another one once they're all there, just so they can get rid of them once and for all with like some mega nukes and shit. But the fucking mama comes out of nowhere still. She's not dead. Comes and follows Ford. Finds him on the fucking boats, about to breathe on him, about to munch away at his ass. But then off screen, of course, we see her start gagging and shit like she's sucking on a Muto cock. But no, it's Godzilla munching away at her fucking neck. And he's mad again. And he's charging up again. He's got the nuclear blast ready. Turns her ass around. Forces her mouth wide open. And just starts vomiting all the radiation possible into her, so much so that he blows a hole right through the back of his head. Just like we talk about it, oh, that bitch gives such good head, she'd make me fucking bust right through a head. She makes me come so hard, kind of thing. That same type of energy blows right through a fucking head. And finally, the MUTOS are dead, male and female counterparts. Of course, one more time, Godzilla, for the time being, has to collapse again because he's been a hero the whole time, unknowingly, of course. But then also, Ford collapses at the same time, passes out. Like he did he did do a lot. Let me not downplay his significance. But he also had to try to act, which he didn't do that well, but at least saving the world, helping out Godzilla and shit, he did do his part. He did do his thing. Can't take that away from him. But then he's out, Godzilla's out, San Francisco is ruined, basically, destroyed pretty much, and they gotta rebuild, redesign, build back stronger and better all together, one and one, everybody hand in hand, all that kumbaya community bullshit. Zilla pops back up miraculously when he's done napping, heads back into the water, and that's fucking it for Godzilla this time around. In 2014, until we got to think afterwards, what was it? Was it Kong Skull Island? Then Godzilla King of the Monsters. And then I think we got the first Godzilla versus Kong, and then now the most recent one, Godzilla and Kong tag teaming together. And of course, it ends with Ford, he reunites with his son and his fucking wife, and they're, young, white, privileged, and beautiful together, with their cute little kid and shit. They're all happy, family's back together, most of the world's been not killed, and the most of it had survived, at least in San Francisco and Hawaii and shit. They're able to regroup and hope for a brighter tomorrow, knowing that now they got a king of the monsters, a savior in Godzilla 2014's version of Godzilla. which we just did right now in episode 77 of Who This Been Watching. And as far as the final score is concerned for Godzilla 2014, listen, there's not enough that I can say about this. It's been a guilty pleasure for me ever since it came out in theaters. I watched it twice. I couldn't wait for it to come out on streaming or wherever I rented it from when it came to home to be able to rent or stream. I forget. It was 2014, 2015, whatever. I don't even keep track no more what was streaming or what wasn't by that point, but whatever. You know what I mean. I was overly excited to see this. This was my first real introduction to the Godzilla monsterverse like that. That, again, as I mentioned, led to Kong, Skull Island. Not as good, but, you know, it gets its props. I did a review on that, like, many episodes ago. Godzilla Kingdom Monsters, all the other ones, too, as I mentioned. I've enjoyed all of them. But I'd still say, for me, honestly, the best one out of all of them would still be Godzilla 2014. There's still the build-up. There's still the teasing, the alluring of the first image of Godzilla. When he comes up, it's epic. They give us a taste, and they make us wait for finally the loud ass roar where he confronts the Mamamuto, like really, like firmly planting both feet, like I'm fucking here and I mean business. I'm gonna fuck your bitch ass up, kind of thing. All that energy in one mighty roar, and it was a good time. It was one of those where you see it opening day in theaters like I did, and everyone walked out happy. Everyone applauded. Everyone fucking gasped when certain things happen at key points and parts. And when Godzilla wins, of course, everybody's fucking happy. Everybody goes home happy. And it was a great retelling of Godzilla, like a serious take on it with great visual effects. Acting could have been better, but, you know, you had Ken Watanabe and you had Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston said goodbye way too soon. At least we had Ken Watanabe throughout, who was the only firm soul believer in Godzilla. He was proven right to believe in Godzilla like that. The biggest stand. This is Ken Watanabe, man. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun to watch again because I watched this plenty of times since it came out back in 2014. 10 years since. I'm still enjoying it every time I do sit down and watch it. It's just under 2 hours. It's one of those where you don't feel 2 hours too much or so bad. I wouldn't say it really drags, but you do feel 2 hours when it's too much human shit on screen, especially like the beginning. Again, thanks to Bryan Cranston, his fine acting, it's tolerable. It's still like, yeah, you know, I could put up with this for like, 40, 45 minutes before we finally get Godzilla on screen. And the MUTOS wake up and all the shit goes down to really lead it and remind you that this is a monsterverse film, first and foremost. But it slows down a bit. It's, again, the acting isn't the finest points. Again, thanks to the lead guy and Elizabeth Olsen. Cute to look at, nice to look at, but not the greatest actress either. There's not really a lot of acting involved, to be honest, unless you count Godzilla 2, which is like, you know, a guy in a green suit with dots all over, motion capturing like what a gigantic-ass iguana-inspired lizard monster would act and look like and move like if it really existed. So I guess that wasn't too bad, but it's a fun time. It's just like I said about Godzilla Kong, The New Empire. It's like a turn your brain off kind of movie to enjoy like that. And if you do so with that mission in mind, you will enjoy it. Is it for everybody? I don't think so. If you had some sort of at least remote, vague interest or watch one of the older Godzilla films like I have in bits and pieces and just want to enjoy a big screen movie like that, which is meant for like big screens, and you know, if you got a big enough TV too, of course. I think this is right up your alley. I'd say out of a 2 in that case, I'm going to give Godzilla 2014 a 1.25, to be honest. It's a guilty pleasure for me. I'll watch it every time it's on. I got no issues with it really, besides I wish the acting was a little better. I wish Bryan Cranston could have lasted a little longer in the movie. And yeah, otherwise it's good. It's a good watch. I enjoyed it, but that's me, of course. That's my opinion. What do you think? You can drop that down below in the comments here on the YouTube version, youtube.com/whothisisone, at whothisisone on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, X, Threads, all that good shit on Twitch. I'll be back soon enough on Twitch with the streaming and shit.
Yo, it's over. All right, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you.
All right.